channel. The last thing I do before I retire for the evening is make this little video. I always hope that I will be able to get to it sooner, but it's not happening these days. And we've also entered Kathy has to wear gloves all the time season. I always have cold hands, and I think it's a mild. I don't get the completely white fingertips of Raynaud's, but I have that kind of issue. So my hands are just generally cold, and just feel better wearing gloves, which means that's what I do. Anyway, so let's get started. And the usual caveats of not being able to edit and not being able to edit out all the anyways that I say, or things like that. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm doing okay. I'm just kind of tired and busy. You know, I've already taken my ZQL, so it's going to set in and I'm going to have to go to bed soon. And just in the throes of the semester, but everything is fine. And let me give you a Shirely update. So really strange, but I guess this is life, you know. So we didn't know how she actually did it, and to this day we don't know what happened. But it was this, as I posted, kind of something happened to her nose, and it was very it looked really uncomfortable, like it was bloody, and she seemed not happy for quite, some days at least before we decided to get in touch with the vet. And we sent them a picture and they said, okay, she needs to come in. And then I couldn't go with her, but Bill brought it in on, I think it was Tuesday, and they cleaned up the whatever it was, and he said it looked like part of her nose had been chopped off. It was, pretty bad looking. And they were a little bit they were like, they didn't know what to make of it either straight away. It wasn't just a cut. It could have been begun as a cut, but then evolved into whatever it was. So, there's all these issues. It could be bacterial, it could be, I don't know if it could be viral, bacterial, or it could be something worse. It could have been a tumor, or, and so what we had to do was pay for a bunch of tests, including a biopsy, and they had to keep her there overnight, and they had to do a mini operation to get the biopsy, which meant they had to do stitches. And so she came home with some cream that we put on, and she still wasn't doing well for quite a while. But just recently, I would say over the past day, it seems to have gotten better, not completely gone, and there's still the stitches. But her disposition she's become happy, Shirley, which means she doesn't spend she doesn't spend all her time on my bed. She actually wanders around and meows and interacts a little bit with her fellow kitties, and she's just more her normal self. So she's feeling better. I was quite worried there, and the thing is, they sent in the tests to some other lab, and we haven't gotten word back as to what it is. And I'm thinking now that she seems better, we still don't know. It could still be something bad. I'm highly doubtful that it is a tumor and that she has cancer. I don't know. I'm pretty sure she doesn't. But it was very strange because it wasn't just a normal cut. It was something that was causing her distress. Just weird things that happens with any living creature that you live with, and she's part of our family. So we were not terribly, and I just want to say this, I'm actually really grateful that we are in a position where we can actually just pay them over $500 for these tests. I will admit to that. Everything that we've done so far was over $500, and I would say I'm midway in the spectrum of how much I would be willing to spend to help a kitty. Depending on prognosis and quality of life. But I'm not so sure. I'm not sure if I would do, pay for chemo or something. I'm not so sure. I'd have to see. And so far that hasn't happened. What has happened in the past with our kitties, we've had 9 of them, is that one kitty in particular was really not doing well at all. And it was obvious that something very bad was going on with Sophie. And it was a little bit like she really was on her way down. And so you take them in, they run a bunch of tests, which costs a lot of money. And then a week later, you have to put them down anyway. So, but that's just how it goes. And so, not to be too macabre here and nonchalant about it all. It's always hard. It's very hard when you lose kitties. But having done, gone through, we've had 9 and now we have 4. So we've done it 5 times. So And every time is different, but it's actually never happened that we've always had to put them down because of illness, you know, whatever different types of illnesses and different time periods of how quickly it all went. But yeah, so she seems fine. And someone, I think Katya, commented, and it's so true that whenever this is something that will stress you out and will just add to the burdens of living. And when you have a sick pet, you worry. And the main thing is their distress. For someone like me who's anxious and sort of highly sensitive anyway, the fact that she wasn't doing well and seems sad, it just it does affect you. I'm just really happy that she's back to her normal, not too exuberant, but normally exuberant self. She's still really clingy, but she's always been a very clingy kitty. But before, when she wasn't doing well, she was sort of sad, clingy, and just always sat on my bed and always wanted to be close. When you would sit down to her, she would come into your lap, and it was just really sweet. And now she's just more kind of almost annoying, clingy, like. Still, Shirley's funny. She'll walk around, and the bad thing she does that I really don't like is she'll chew my hair. I don't like that. I don't like her hair chewing. So enough of that. Let me get into the books because time is running out. So basically, all Victober, all the time, almost. Let me see. So the one that I finished was Phineas Redux. Yet again, a book that I mainly listen to. So the Further Adventures of Phineas Finn, who is such an interesting fellow. And who, of course, in the end falls on his feet. But oh my gosh, what a story that he goes through. I mean, this one is really interesting. Not to give too much away in terms of plot, but you get to know the sort of the court system and what happens to someone who's accused of crimes. And it's really well done. I loved it. I loved it a lot. I love the palaces almost as much as the Barsetshire, maybe even as much, but they're very different, and more than the one non-series one that I read, which was The Way We Live Now, which was good, and I'm still thinking about it and thinking of the characters, and as I recall, there are a few characters that are mentioned in the other ones still, but it's a different universe. It's not connected closely enough to any of these to have that kind of meeting people that you already know from before. Plus, this has one of my favorite characters in all of Trollope. Madame Goesler is fantastic. Phineas is interesting. He's an interesting fellow. He's not completely positive, but I think that's the way Trollope wanted to portray him. And the plight of someone like Laura Kennedy, the woman who had so much potential because she was smart and sort of really interested in politics, but she made one wrong choice in her life, and that seemed to sort of be her downfall in a way, which I thought was a little sad. He's very good with women characters. This is all the good things that we know have come to appreciate about Trollope. He's an author that it's almost that you get too attached to someone, like you just kind of are uncritical because you just think it's a Trollope and you just love it so much. But it was really good. And so there's two more in the Palliser that I will get to, and they're both available on the audio. Timothy West does a great job. And so what happened was, after I finished this, and this was 5 stars, so really good. Bye-bye, Phineas Finn. And another one to add to my have already read section, as opposed to the long TBR section, which is down here. So it is kind of moving around my bookshelves. I'll give an update. So what happened was I took a bit of time, and because I'm sort of busy and I would try things out on the audio that weren't quite working. Even, for example, an essay by Rebecca Solnit that was good, but for some reason I wasn't kind of down with. I mean, not from the content, because it was all about how the fact that people are. She talks about choice. It has, I forget what it's called. The question of mother of all questions. I think, is that what it's called? I think that's what it's called. And it seems to be about. I didn't get that far into it, about the fact that people have, in a kind of accusatory way, asked her why she doesn't have kids. So the whole sort of, why are you child-free? Why? And of course, I'm child-free, and I'm perfectly okay with that. The older I get, the more okay. I mean, I never was not okay with it. It just kind of seemed to all fall into place, and with my stupid job that I have, and career choices, and so it was never really something that I regretted at all. I just didn't, it wasn't even like something I had to think about. It's like, I'm just not going to have kids. No. And I'm sure it's psychologically connected to family issues, but for some reason, it doesn't really, I didn't feel the need to have this essay about this issue. It almost seems like, and I'm wondering, I keep sort of thinking with my young students how they feel about it, although most of them probably will just go and have families, and as most people do, for better or for worse, but not everyone does. And I think I'm hoping that that is becoming more okay and more normal for women to just not have procreation be the being with, you know, the what we're on here on earth to do. I'm not sure how much it's, I mean, of course, traditionally in terms of the patriarchy, it has been that way, but in terms of women, actual women's lives, there's so many women I can think of for whom that hasn't been the case, and who've gone on to do great things. But I'm sort of someone who's like, well, not even to go on. And Rebecca's all about, well, I want to be a writer, and she's a great writer and journalist. For me, it's more like I just don't want to kiss. It's not that I want to be a great writer or anything. It's just like I want to live the life that I want to live. Anyway, so that's a long sort of little discussion of why I didn't really want to finish that little. These are sort of essays that are on audio as little mini books, I guess. So I just kind of gave that one up. And I scrounged around trying things. And sometimes the narrator is not to my liking. There's one narrator called David Case, and it's a pseudonym for his actual name. And he just sounds super snobby, super posh, super like, oh, give me another cocktail, please. Oh, just super plummy in that kind of annoying way. I don't know. And when he reads something, it's like I can't take that voice seriously. I don't mind a British accent. I like British accents, but if it's too plummy and oh darling, oh pass me this, it's just no. I'm doing a bad imitation of it too. So what did I hone in on? So I decided after, I almost went with Count of Monte Cristo, which probably would have been good. So I found free versions of not Victorian, sort of the next era after Victorian, which is so John Galsworthy, The Forsyte Saga. And I actually did see this miniseries, which I liked. But as so often is the case, the minute you start listening to someone's actual text, it's much more layered, much richer, much more internally subtle than any sort of PBS masterpiece thing that you get, at least in the case of this novel, from what I gather from the first couple of chapters that I've listened to. And there's two narrators, both of them are not perfect, but they'll do. One of them's, I don't know, it's hard to describe what's wrong with them. But this is really interesting and really well written. It's a little bit, I feel like I'm sort of stuck in this Victorian, English, British family saga thing, and I need to kind of get out of that rut a little bit, but I don't have time or energy to push myself to do that, so I'm just going to stay in the rut. And it is different enough. What's interesting about Galsworthy, so apparently it was published in 1918. I'll do a little bit more research because I won't be done by the end of next time. So what you get is post-Victorian. So you get, in a way, to me, it sounds, I'm getting sort of, it's just like trying a different wine. I'm getting whiffs of Zola and realism, but sort of more going towards James and sort of proto-modern stuff, proto-modernism. So his sort of digressions into the family and the nature of this family, the Forsytes, and how they are, and the descriptions of their views on life and everything. So realist, but sort of moving on into other things. Zola, James, even Proust. I'm getting whiffs of Proust from Galsworthy. Not to say that he's Proust. And I'm sort of wondering, I haven't done much research on him at all, really. What did Woolf think of him? We know that Virginia Woolf, who could be really, really snobby, looked down on someone like Arnold Bennett, whose book I listened to a bit earlier in the year called Old Wives' Tale, and I highly recommend that one. It was really good. Sort of about middle-class people and their lives. And so this is that's sort of they're rich or they've become well off and sort of hoity-toity because of their success. They're not exactly, they're vidstrivers, so to speak. They're not really nobility. They're not like Trollopian well-off people. They're sort of this cusp of their upper class because of having done well in life. and there's a lot of class stuff going on already. Kind of this new person has come in, and I know that from the series, I remember the actress who played Irene, and then Soames here, who's this guy, the one who was Homecoming. I forget his name. This actor here, he's apparently also a musician. I forget his name. Anyway, he's good. The redhead guy. That their kind of awful marriage, I do remember from the show, and I'm interested to see how that's portrayed in the novel. So I think that'll be a nice listen. So that's my listen. And also I almost always have to have a copy of the text. And that reminds me, I'm already at 50 minutes, I apologize. One book that I actually did buy as a listen, and then I got a hard copy as well, is, and a student had said that they were listening to this, and I thought, okay, I need some stoicism in my life. So yes, I went out and got Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. So Roman writer, Latin writer, father of Stoicism, apparently, and it's good, but it's not something I can just walk around and do my chores while I'm listening to it. I need to have a text in front of me. It's a text listening, or even just sitting and listening, perhaps. And it's really one where you want to take notes, because it's sort of like, it's like self-help. You know, I feel like for anyone out there who's even remotely interested in the idiot called Jordan Peterson, for lack of a better term, should go listen to Marcus Aurelius instead. I mean, you're going to get much better advice from that guy than from Peterson. I hate him so much. What was I going to say? So yes, and it reminds me of how I tried to listen to the Iliad, with the really good one with Derek Jacobi, and I couldn't do it. I need to sit there and read it. So these sort of classical texts just take more time. I need to spend more time with them. I can't just sort of whiz through them like Trollope. And so yeah, I gave up on Aurelius, even though I'm gonna keep it in mind and put it on my TBR. And I think the last thing I have to talk about, and I haven't made, well, two things. First off, I'm still on the Kindle. I'm still reading Pillars of the House. They're very, very long. Unfortunately, actual reading has been not progressing that much. I'm enjoying what I'm reading, but I'm just not getting to it that much. So thank goodness for having the audios. Pillars of the House by Charlotte Young. I have to figure out so what I'm going to say about these two last works, the Victorians that I'm still reading. This is my super niche novel by my first cousin thrice removed, Mrs. Bartle Teeling, otherwise known as Theodora Louisa Lane Clark. I don't know what the M stands for. It seems kind of fake, because the name is Theodora Louisa Lane, and then she married Clark. The Lanes were my family, and so she's heavily Catholic, and so this is this little sweet story about these little boys who are shipped off to England to work for someone, and it's sort of slightly Dickensian, but and it's not terribly written, it's not great written, but it's not terrible, it's readable. But what I will say is I can tell that she doesn't want to make it too dark and dismal and too Dickensian, too like, there's a lightness that doesn't really go with their terrible situation. And like, they're with this guy who's brought them over from Italy, and like, if Dickens were to do this, he would be awful, but he's not that awful. He's sort of like, everything is still, they're not having a terrible experience. And I think it's going to get sort of Cesare, the little Italian person who's the main guy, is going to have okay things happen to him in the end. And hopefully he'll be reunited with his family. And right now they've had this funny sort of discussion, so that he basically is doing the same thing that he did in London, which is in Italy, in Rome, which is begging and selling violets or selling flowers. But they're obsessed with animals. Like, one of them has a little monkey, and then he gets mice and tames them. And there's this passage where apparently people who see them think they're mistreating their animals, and they go on and on about, no, they don't mistreat their animals. They look after their animals, and they have connections to their animals, which is sort of interesting. And the whole monkey thing, the poor little monkey, the descriptions of the monkey, it's just kind of strange, but it's quite enjoyable. And then Young is sort of, a couple of up the ladder in terms of quality, I would say. But both of them, Young even more, it's very churchy. It is very churchy, and you can tell she's just interested in idealized depictions of people. But you know what? There's a part of me that's okay with that. I'm not turned off by it that much. I still am enjoying it more than, okay, heretical thoughts incoming. I did not care for Mary Barton by Gaskell. I think I may have mentioned that before. I had a hard time with the plot. I thought the plot was weird and kind of went all over the place. And something about the depiction of very, very lower class people, I didn't care for it. I don't know exactly how to frame it, but it had to do with the uber morality stuff that was going on, and the sort of the bad woman and the good woman, and I'm sure that Young is equally moralistic and churchy, for lack of a better term. But the story's kind of still holding my interest, and partly because it is this huge family. There's like 13 children. The mother, who's probably on her way out, I'm thinking, she's had accidents, and she just gave birth to twins after already having like so many children. So it's a very, there's a bunch of kids, and they're all being kind of put in different situations that where someone will look after them. Their father has passed away, and we knew he would. It wasn't a secret. And so it's about the plight of this family and how they're going to pull through despite being basically orphans and like she does interesting things, like she'll put like a list of all the kids and all their names, and they all have interesting names. So it's still holding my interest, even though I'm still very much at the beginning. It's over 500 pages, and that's only the first part of it. So I think altogether it's 1,000 pages. It's very long. And so far, I don't feel inclined to give it up or put it aside. It's as if I'm strange how I just don't mind length at all when it comes to my readings, even though I'm a slow reader. If I like what I'm reading, I'll stick with it. You know, I have a couple books on here that have been on there. Well, one of them's been on there for years, and I'm still only about 100 and so pages in. That's The Young. And even the Peter Weiss novel, which is fantastic, but which I just don't have time for. I don't really mind. And for some reason, the way they're set up, I'm not really thinking I need to start from the beginning again. I know what's going on, even though I'm not with these books. It all depends on what you're reading, I guess. So that's my update, and at some point I'll be able to perhaps do my update earlier in the day. We'll see. And is there anything else I need to report? I don't think so. We're at 22 minutes, and I'm not going to be able to edit this, make it shorter. So I hope everyone's doing well. Thank you all for subscribing. And let me know what you're reading, or if you've heard of any of these people. Have you read the Forsyte Saga, or Young, or Trollope? Of course, there's always Trollope, and I think that's about it. Or even Marcus Aurelius. Anyone from Marcus Aurelius? And I'll talk to you very soon. And thank you all for your kind comments about Shirley, our kitty. I always think it's fine to be sort of a realist about what's going on in one's life. It's part of what we're here. And yeah, I hope everyone's doing well, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.